Oja Kingdom lay cradled between two hills, its red earth warm beneath the sun and its air scented with the sweetness of palm wine and ripe mangoes. The people lived close to the land, their days marked by the rising and setting of the sun, and their nights alive with the rhythms of drums and the flicker of firelight. It was said that long ago, the ancestors blessed Oja with fertile soil and streams so clear you could count the stones at the bottom. But those blessings had begun to fade. The signs came quietly at first, a poor harvest here, a dry stream there, until one season, the calamities arrived in a flood. The river no longer sang. The yams were small and bitter. Children who once chased each other through the market now lay weak in their mothers' arms. Some said the earth was simply tired. Others whispered of old wrongs, of innocent blood shed in anger, and of a curse that had slept for generations only to wake again. When the weight of it became too heavy, the elders agreed to seek the wisdom of Dibia Okafor, the chief priest whose counsel had guided 3 kings. On the night of the gathering, the people walked to the shrine in solemn silence, each carrying a small offering, a kola nut, a handful of cowries, a calabash of palm wine. The air was heavy with the smoke of burning herbs, and the moon hung low, casting pale light over the gathering. Dibia Okafor's voice, deep and slow, roared through the crowd. The ancestors have spoken. The shadow will not lift until the Bead of Destiny is found. Without it, the cleansing rites cannot be performed, and Oja will sink deeper into sorrow. A murmur spread through the crowd like wind in a dry forest. But the priest's next words struck even deeper. If the bead is not found before the next full moon, the life of Prince Somodina, the king's only son, will be claimed by the curse. The people gasped. The prince was beloved, a boy with a smile as warm as the midday sun, known for running barefoot through the market, greeting even the humblest of villagers by name. The thought of losing him filled the air with dread. At dawn the next day, King Chokudi summoned his people to the palace courtyard. His royal stool gleamed in the morning light, the leopard skin beneath him a mark of his authority. His voice carried over the crowd. Whoever finds the Bead of Destiny will be rewarded with wealth beyond measure. And the one who has kept it safe, if such a person still lives, shall have one wish, anything in this world, and it shall be granted. The promise set the kingdom ablaze. Men abandoned their farms, women searched the riverbanks, hunters ventured deep into the forest. In the evenings, the air buzzed with rumors. Someone had seen a glint in the sand by the river, someone else claimed their grandfather once held the bead. But each rumor led to nothing, and with every passing day, the prince's strength waned. Far from the palace, at the very edge of the kingdom, a 12-year-old girl named Miriam listened to the talk with quiet eyes. She lived alone in a small mud hut roofed with palm leaves, tending a patch of cassava and a few yam mounds. She had been 6 when her parents died, leaving her only with memories, and one secret. Under a loose brick in her hut lay a small leather pouch, soft from years of handling. Inside it was a single bead, smooth and warm, the color of the evening sun. She had kept it hidden since the night her mother, frail and fading, had placed it in her hands. Her mother's voice was still clear in her mind, "This is no ordinary bead, my child. Keep it safe. Tell no one. A time will come when you will know what to do, and on that day, you will understand why I gave it to you." Miriam had obeyed. For 6 years, she told no one. But now the cries of her people filled the air. She saw the hunger in the eyes of children, heard the weary coughs of elders, and learned from a traveling woman that Prince Somodina was so weak he could no longer rise from his bed. The healer said only the cleansing with the Bead of Destiny could save him. Some nights she lay awake, clutching the pouch, torn between loyalty to her mother's words and the need to help her people. Her heart felt like a rope pulled from both ends. One night, under the light of a full moon, Miriam sat in the doorway of her hut, the pouch resting in her lap. She thought of the market woman who had given her a small piece of roasted yam when she had nothing to trade. She thought of the little boy she had seen sitting by the roadside, too weak to play. She thought of the prince, and of the kingdom suffering. Slowly, she rose to her feet. Before dawn, she began the walk to the palace. The cool morning air wrapped around her, carrying the smell of wet earth. She passed neighbors who watched her in silence, sensing that her journey was no ordinary one. In her palm, the pouch felt warm, almost alive. As she neared the main path, 3 men blocked her way. They were neighbors she knew by sight, their eyes sharp with suspicion. "Where are you going this early, Miriam?" one asked. "To the palace," she replied softly. The tallest of them narrowed his eyes. "You've been too quiet since this talk of the bead began. Are you hiding something?" Miriam's fingers tightened around the pouch in her pocket. She could feel their eyes on her like the midday sun. "I only wish to speak to the king," she said, her voice steady. The men exchanged glances, then stepped aside slowly. "Go then," one muttered, "but remember, the whole kingdom is watching." Inside the palace gates, the murmur of voices fell to silence as Miriam stepped forward. She knelt before King Chokudi, her head bowed. Her fingers untied the pouch, and the bead rolled into her palm. The morning sun caught it, and it glowed with a gentle light that seemed to pulse like a living thing. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dibia Okofor stepped forward, his eyes wide. "It is the Bead of Destiny," he said, his voice trembling. "The ancestors have returned it to us." The king leaned forward, studying the bead for a long moment before speaking. "Child, do you know what you carry?" Miriam lifted her eyes. "Yes, Your Majesty. My mother gave it to me and told me to keep it safe until the right time came. I believe that time is now." The cleansing rites began at once. Drums pounded in deep rhythms, the voices of the singers rising like a river in flood. The bead was placed in a carved wooden bowl, anointed with oil, and lifted high so that the morning light touched it. Sacred herbs were burned, and the smoke curled into the air, carrying prayers to the sky. As the final chant faded, a cool breeze swept through the land. The trees swayed gently, and the river's voice returned, singing over the stones. In the royal chamber, Prince Somadina's eyes opened for the first time in days. Color returned to his cheeks, and by sunset, he was sitting upright, smiling faintly at his father. When all was done, King Chokudi turned to Miriam. "You have saved your people and my son. Speak your wish, and it shall be yours." The courtyard held its breath. But Miriam's eyes were not on the king's treasures or the gold ornaments at his side. She looked instead at the children in the crowd, thin, barefoot, their eyes wide. "I want no riches for myself," she said quietly. "I want every child in Oja to have food, clothing, and a place to learn. That is my wish." For a moment, there was only silence. Then King Chokudi's voice rang out, strong and sure. "So it shall be. From this day, no child of Oja will go hungry or be left without knowledge." The curse lifted. The yam barns filled again, the river danced in the sunlight, and laughter returned to the market. Schools rose where there had been none, and the sound of children's voices filled the air. Years passed, and Oja Kingdom flourished. The curse was a memory told only in quiet voices, a story parents shared with their children as they roasted maize by the fire. The river ran strong, the harvests were bountiful, and the sound of laughter had become part of the very air. Miriam grew into a young woman, her beauty not only in her face but in the calm dignity she carried. She remained in her small hut at the edge of the kingdom, tending her garden, teaching the little ones how to read and write under the shade of the great Udola tree. Though she could have lived in the palace, she chose the simple life, her joy found in the smiles of the children she had once wished for. Prince Somadine grew strong and wise, his heart shaped by the memory of the girl who had saved his life. Whenever he passed through the village, his eyes would search the crowd until they found Miriam. They would exchange a smile, quiet, knowing, and full of gratitude. On the 10th anniversary of the cleansing, King Chokudi decreed a celebration to honor the peace that had returned to Oja. Drums beat, dancers spun, and the air was filled with the smell of roasted meat and fresh palm wine. In the middle of the feast, the king stood, his voice carrying over the crowd. On this day, 10 seasons passed, a child of Oja saved not only the life of my son but the life of our kingdom. Today, that child is a woman, and her name shall be written among the honored ones of our land. He called Miriam forward. The crowd parted, and she walked slowly to the royal dais, the beads in her hair catching the sunlight. The king placed a golden pendant around her neck, a new bead, crafted from the kingdom's finest gold. "This is not the bead of destiny," he said, "for that belongs to the ancestors. But it is a token of our everlasting gratitude." Then Prince Somadina stepped forward. He was taller now, his voice deep, his eyes warm. "Miriam," he said, "you gave me life when I had none left. You gave my people hope when they had none. And though the kingdom has rewarded you, I wish to give you something from my heart." The crowd leaned in, the air thick with anticipation. Somadina smiled softly. "I wish for you to walk beside me, not as the girl who saved the prince, but as a friend I will cherish for all my days." Miriam's eyes glistened, but her smile was steady. "I will walk beside you, Somadina. Always." And so it was. In the years that followed, their bond became the quiet thread that wove the kingdom together, a reminder that even in the smallest hands, the weight of destiny can be carried with grace. Whenever the children asked Miriam about the bead, she would smile and tell them, it was never just the bead. It was the love we have for one another that saved Oja. And under the great Udala tree, the sound of her laughter mingled with theirs, carried on the wind across the hills, where it would travel forever. Subscribe, like and share for more stories from African Echoes Infinity.